I finally watched Squid Game about a month after it blew up, and in internet time, that's about 2 years. So by now, you've probably seen several videos breaking down every little thing about this show, so I'm going to try not to tread on familiar ground too much, but I want to give some of my spoiler thoughts on the show since it's been out for a while now and most people have probably watched it. I'm not going to get into every single detail here, but if you're like me and you still haven't watched the show or you're in the process of watching the show right now, don't watch this video. I suggest you save it for later because there's some stuff that surprisingly the internet did not spoil, and I don't want to spoil that for you. So if you want to fully experience the show, please go watch the whole thing first and then come back to this video. But actually first, let me start with some general things that I loved about the show. First of all, the performances across the board were absolutely phenomenal. Everybody absolutely killed it. I love the set design where you kind of have this little kid playroom sort of look, but also you can see there's something sinister under the surface. I also really love the music. It's very quirky and again childlike, which is contrasted with all the violence and the very sick people that are running this game. I think this was a perfect combination of look, feel, sound. I think everything came together really well in this show. Alright, so let's talk about the games. The first two games were pretty much the basis for a lot of the memes that came out while the show was going on. So I kind of knew what to expect going into those a little more. Again, they weren't totally spoiled for me, but I got the gist of them. You have red light, green light, where if the robot catches you moving, you die, you get shot. And then there's a honeycomb game where if you don't cut out the shape in time or you mess up the shape, you get shot. So those two I think were very similar in the results. But what I think is the real turning point of the show is Game 3, Tug of War. In the first two games, it was pretty much everyone for themselves. But in this third game, they are in a team, but their team's objective is to essentially kill the other team in Tug of War. Because the way it works is you pull them over the edge and they fall to their death. That's where I think it really got serious for me as someone watching and for the characters in the show itself. Because in this instance, their actions directly lead to the death of other players. Whereas in the other two, it was kind of like everyone just doing their own thing, and if you mess up, you got shot. Another interesting thing about the third game is that Il-nam comes in with all this experience, and he teaches them how to play Tug of War, like using strategy to win. Now also I should say, at the beginning of the series, I knew something was up with Il-nam. I didn't know exactly what. My guess was that he was actually a returning player and that he's been doing this for a long time. That's why he got the number 1. I was sort of close, and we'll get to that later. And it does make sense when you know what the truth is and you look back at the previous games, because in the first game you see he's very excited and he's running and he doesn't seem to care that he might get shot. And then in the second game, again, he just seemed like he was having the time of his life, which he was. We'll get to that later. Game 4 is the gut punch because that's where we see the characters that we've been following the most time, that we've been attached to, have to face off against each other in a way that, again, leads to the death of like half of the players. So there's a lot of really heartbreaking matchups here. There's Song-woo, who tricks Ali into giving up all his marbles and leading to him getting killed, which sucks because he was the good guy in this whole situation. There's Ji-young, who sacrifices herself for Se-byok, which was, again, also really heartbreaking. I liked also that they kind of explained why she was picking on the religious guys so much, because you could see she had a bad experience in her time where her dad was a pastor and he did some messed up stuff, so that all makes sense. But to see her actively choose, like, I'm gonna let you win, that was really sad. And then with Il-nam and Ji-young, you see that Il-nam is having some kind of mental break, or so they thought, and then Ji-young tries to take advantage of it, but it turns out that was kind of the play all along. And supposedly you see Il-nam get shot, but you really don't. And that's something that I did notice about the show, is that when someone's gonna die, they make it very clear. You see the body. You either see them get shot, you see them get killed, fall to their death, or you see the body afterwards. And the only times that they didn't do that is the cop, which I'll talk about later, and Il-nam getting shot after marbles. The same thing happened with Han Man-yo when she got pulled away before marbles since no one picked her as her teammate. I knew they weren't going to kill her because the whole idea of this game is that it's supposed to be fair and that everybody should have an equal shot at the prize money. You do see her fall to her death with Deok-soo though, so that's again very clear that they died. And I thought that was a very fitting ending for them because they had this weird relationship where they try to keep one-upping each other, and so it was kind of fitting that in the end, his selfishness ended up getting him killed because she was like, oh, you're gonna mess with me? You're gonna try and double-cross me? Well, you're gonna die too, and she pulls him over the edge with her. And then Game 5 and 6 were just the most stressful ones, I think, because then you're getting down to the very last characters, and it eventually leads to a lot of them dying. But the deaths that hit me the hardest towards the end were Se-byok, because she gets killed before she even gets a chance because of Song-woo, and then Song-woo killing himself. When I thought about it, it actually made sense that Song-woo ended up doing that to himself, because his whole idea throughout the games is that they had to keep going, that they had to make it to the end to the prize money or else it would not be worth it. Like, why are they even there? They made it that far already. They should keep going. But when Ji-Hung tried to end the game again, he was like, no, you can't do that. You have to make it to the end. There's a lot riding on it, so it made sense for him to sacrifice himself because he didn't want the game to end and the money to just go back to the people who died. He didn't want that to happen. He wanted somebody to win. Outside of the games, there were a few subplots that I thought were interesting. You had the organ harvesting one, which I kind of wanted to see more about. Like, I wanted to know who was actually buying these organs, who was out there. And then there's the cop Junho, who is investigating the Squid Game, trying to figure out what's really going on, and to find his brother, who turns out to be the front man. I did mention earlier that this show makes it a point to show the dead bodies when they're dead bodies, and you don't see Junho's body, so there's a pretty good chance he could come back. Again, if you don't see the body, they're probably not dead. For example, when Ollie got shot, they didn't show him getting shot on camera, but you do see his body after the fact heading to the incinerator. So it makes sense. I do think he's probably going to come back. I also want to see what happens to the messages he sent right before he got shot. I have a feeling they probably went through at the last second, but we didn't see it, of course. But I feel like next season you may see more police going after the Squid Game. And then the biggest twist of the show, which surprisingly, again, no one spoiled, is that Il-nam, the old man, the sweet old man, who was playing along with everybody, was actually the one who started the game and has been running it for decades. Again, I knew there'd be more to his character, but that still surprised me. I thought that was a pretty great twist. And then his explanation also made sense, even though, again, it's really messed up. But his whole idea was that when you don't have any money at all, you're sad, again, because you have no money to live, you can't get food, you can't take care of your family, it sucks. But then, from his perspective, he was saying, well, I have so much money from all this work I was doing, and life just became boring. So it's kind of like a money doesn't buy happiness kind of thing, but in a sick way, because then he then used that as an excuse to create these deadly games where people lost their lives, and he'd bring other people in to come watch it happen and bet money on it. It's a very crazy situation, and I understand his perspective to a degree, but it's still absolutely insane that he got away with that. But that's the thing. If they do season 2, I do think you're going to see a lot more of the investigation part of it. You're going to see some more people going after them. For example, we see Ji-Hung heading back to the games. I think it's going to be kind of like Hunger Games Catching Fire, where they go back again and play through the whole thing again, and then maybe if there's a third season, that's when they're really going to start trying to take down the Squid Game. Also, I thought it was interesting that Ji-Hung couldn't use any of the money. He just felt guilty about it. I thought that was an interesting place for the character, because I guess any of the other ones probably would have spent the money, but he did end up using the money to help Song-woo's mom and Se-byok's little brother, which I thought was a very fitting ending for both of them. Now, what would I want to see in season 2? With Netflix, again, it's a toss-up whether this show will get season 2 or not. It's not guaranteed yet. It is their most popular show, but you know with Netflix that could still not mean much because they might cancel it anyway. But I do want to see Ji-Hung go back to the Squid Game and try and take it down from the inside. That would be really cool. I want to see what happened to the cop. Again, I think he might still be alive. I want to see what he's been up to because it's been a year since the game ended, so I feel like they're going to show more of what he was doing behind the scenes because maybe he went into hiding. I want to see more of a little bit of the origins of the game, maybe like a flashback to the first one. I want to see how Junho's brother got involved and became the front man. That'd be cool. I want to see some new kid games because I think there's a lot of room for more twisted versions of childhood games that I think would be really interesting. And I do want to see how they eventually try to take down the games because as we can see, they're still going strong even though Il-nam has passed away. I do want to see them kind of do like a revolution thing. That'd be really cool. So, there we go. I finally watched Squid Game. I'm sure you have too. What did you think about it? Let me know your spoiler thoughts down below. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next one.